Chidoti, CEO and founder of Scale Up Consulting and author of Unlock Hidden Profit Zones. And we're back up at the top, folks, at the Amsterdam FinTech Week. And we have Paul from Google. So super excited to be chatting today, Paul. We're going to be chatting about cloud and the adoption with inside financial services, not just for fintechs, but financial services as a whole. And let's sort of kick off the conversation at the top. And it would be really interesting to get your insights as to, what you see as the main challenges or obstacles facing either fintechs or financial services companies on their path to adopting cloud.
I think the financial services industry, in the broadest context, is a cautious industry, and in that context, there's reasons why it should be cautious. There's a huge degree of trust that they carry from the public, from the marketplace, in terms of safeguarding people's money and privacy. So if we look back on the waves of technology development over a long period of time, you'd probably find that certainly the incumbent financial brands were the last to adopt each particular technology. And given that there's so much trust involved in what they do and they're regulated, they're always going to be cautious. Okay, so I think nobody would be surprised by the fact that, yet again, they're laggards, but you can see why. But ultimately, they're fundamental to the economy. Financial intermediation is fundamental to the economy, and they'll always follow how the economy does business. They'll be last, but they will always transition to how the economy wants to do business. So I think in that context, for both incumbents and fintech, that's the reality, and they have to follow their business strategies based on that. Secondly, I suppose, they're particularly exposed to the economic cycle. More so than other industries, they don't have that independence of movement. If the economy goes up, their balance sheets grow and their risk management is stretched. If the economy goes down, their balance sheet can shrink and their risk management is stretched. And we're probably seeing the economic cycle playing out a bit at the moment. So these are the permanent realities, that they're always cautious, and the temporary realities, that they have to pay real attention to help their customers where they can and risk manage through the cycle. So in that context, there's still forward momentum towards cloud adoption because they always want to do business as the economy does, and the economy is moving towards increasingly highly connected in a digital fashion and highly scalable in terms of data processing, data analytics and artificial intelligence. So they are making progress and increasingly are recognizing that, cloud will allow them to concentrate on what they want to concentrate on. So banks aren't unique in not really wanting to be a tech company primarily. They want to use tech, or insurance companies or fintechs to achieve what they want to achieve in business terms. So in that context, when you're looking potentially at an economic downturn, you want huge amounts of processing power, flexibility in terms of what you're doing. So I think the business case for cloud adoption is still strong and is moving forward. And certainly increasingly, we're seeing clients come to us with self-identified use cases for cloud adoption rather than in the early stages, the vendor was doing as much to present possible use cases. I think the case is made at a strategic level that for every services company, you shouldn't really want to be specializing in running data centers. You shouldn't really want to be specializing in running networks. You actually have a primary core purpose and function in the broader economy, and cloud adoption allows you to concentrate much better and then scale much faster when you find successes inside that.
What steps would you recommend executives, leaders in the fintech and financial services space to really walk through in order to understand what they are getting for the investments that they go off and do?
From my vantage point, what I've seen is that when people try to make that strategic business case or project a return on investment at the level of the enterprise, of the benefits specific to the enterprise, it can struggle on the basis that they're good ideas, and that's the direction we want to go. But is that a compelling reason to change a current vendor, change a current system? How pressing, compelling is the need for change? If you just look at the level of the enterprise, which tends to look towards internal efficiencies and optimization, an incremental improvement to the customer proposition or incremental improvement to the supplier management. I think if you can bring the dialogue up credibly to the evolution of the economy, and increasingly, it's confidently we can say that competition is increasingly between digital ecosystems, that customers expect their favourite brands to collaborate to provide extended connected digital experiences. And this is how their favourite brands, the emerging digitalised brands, behave. And when you bring the discussion up to the level of the economy and say, this is the market architecture, you could have a great product, but if it's not connected in ecosystems, it might fail. You could have an average product well connected in the right ecosystem that can be a big success. If you get into discussions about the nature of competition and what the stock market is valuing and in the long term in terms of business models, then you can work down from that discussion around market architecture or the information architecture of the economy into, well, what's the business architecture necessary to be flexible and adaptable and effective in that economy? And then from that business architecture, what's the technical architecture needed to enable that? So I think when you manage to get the discussion into that, what's the broader environment going to be, and really to be effective and scalable inside that, what do you need to do? I think if that investment case is bought, then key decision makers look at existing vendors and platforms with a fresh eye and go, well, that might be fine incrementally in the short to medium term, but is this really the type of platform that's going to keep me relevant and flexible in how the world's emerging? So in crude terms, if the discussion becomes an investment case and an investment program in really focusing their core competencies and adopting cloud, you see sustained effort to make the transformation. If it comes down to, well, what are the cloud use cases that might incrementally improve how we do things now, you tend to find more intermittent commitment to transformation.
What do you see as some of the key opportunities for fintechs and also financial service institutions for them to unlock growth, unlock a new wave of optimism and a new cycle of economic activity?
Undoubtedly the green transition, because if we consider how an economy gets financed, very crudely it's a combination of equity and debt. And equity is going into new green techs at the moment. And we hear hopeful stories in the long term about breakthrough energy systems and energy types. But in reality, the real challenge for the fintech sector and financial services sector is it's mature green tech that's ready to go. So, the first solar panel was demonstrated in 1954. The reality here is that the stuff that we know that works and makes a difference needs to be deployed and financed. But that's a diverse project of enormous scale that requires lots of data gathering, analysis and sharing. So in the round, the green transition is good news for the financial services industry because it's also an enormous financing challenge. The risky part is to deleverage the inefficient, unsustainable old economy in a controlled way. So for fintech specifically, if you are obviously in the business of raising investment funds and looking for long-term sources of customer demand or partnerships, pivoting towards green is certainly going to be a promising opportunity because all of those, factories and commercial buildings and homes and transportation systems and vehicles that need to go from brown to green and need to be financed, that needs to happen through ecosystems of partnerships, because no single organisation can impact that themselves. So for 2023, my advice and expectation is for fintech is to recognise that green and digital are twin transitions, and in terms of long-term demand, a long-term supply of capital, it certainly does look like something they should investigate in real depth.
Thanks for joining us upstairs, and looking forward to chatting after this, and also looking forward to seeing you guys make more inroads into the financial services and fintech space. I really like what you guys are doing.